Hello guys and welcome back to Boston Studio tutorial number 2. This time is about the EQ, the parametric EQ, the graphic EQ and the global EQ. Most of you already know that I don't use the global EQ. I find that going here into system and then global EQ, there's a lot of settings here. It's just another EQ and I don't use it because I'm always changing my sound. You might want to use it if you're always playing with the same kind of sound or style, and you might want to roll out some highs for the fizziness or stuff like that. But if you're always changing and playing on a cover band or something like that, this is not a good idea actually to mess around with this stuff. So I'll leave it as it is. And of course, as you guys already know, if I put my effects, if I use an EQ here, I'm gonna lose something. I could lose a chorus or something like that. But that happens the same if you use a booster, and you could lose your chorus or something like that. There's always one or other way around. But for you to use the EQ or both EQs like I do, you better have like I don't know, some pedals around, external pedals on loop effects of the Katana to compensate for the lack of the several effects engaged at the same time. Now let's look at the EQ. First EQ here. Let me put this in 0. Everything at noon, kind of, and level also. I don't know how my guitar sounds right now on the neck pickup. Too fizzy for me anyway. What I have here, if you guys can see, it's an EQ that comes stock with Logic, and you can see the signal, a visual representation of the signal. There's a huge gap here. There's nothing, almost nothing, around 5K, probably because, let me check. Yeah, the high cut is around 6, like I thought. So if I put it flat, it will sound different probably, or show more frequencies. Yeah, it shows a little bit more. This is not the perfect EQ, but anyway, let's go straight into what I'm talking about. So on page 1, you have low gain, low mid gain, high mid gain, high gain level, and then the other controls here that are very important. And this way, with this EQ, you can understand what you're actually doing, okay? In the low gain, the first knob, you just have the option to increase or decrease the value, okay? Nothing else. Just more lows, you can see on the graphic, or nothing, as you can see on the graphic. So this is one to your taste. They're all to your taste, but anyway. Now, on the low mid gain, you have low mid gain frequency and low mid gain Q. What this means? Okay, it's very easy, fairly simple to understand. First, you're going to choose the frequency you want to boost or cut, okay? In this case, as you can see on the right, it's showing me the frequency I have from 20 to 10 hertz, okay? 20 hertz to 10 kilohertz. Let's say I want to cut around, probably around, let me check out. For a heavier tone, I want to cut around 600 hertz. So I already chose the frequency, it's here. And now I'm going to cut it right down here, okay? And the graphic shows that. Now what's the Q value? Well, the Q value, it's, let me show here on this EQ, it's much simpler to show. I'm going to grab here a frequency around the same thing, 630. Okay, now I'm going to boost or cut like I did there. I don't know if these are decibels on Tone Studio, I have no idea, but probably they are. So I'm going to cut around 10 decibels, 7 I mean, and put this the way it was. So it's doing nothing like this, okay? As you guys can see, I just did the same thing. If I disengage, you can see the difference. Now what's the Q? The Q is the shape, as you can see, is the shape of the curve of the EQ, all right? So we have 620 hertz and a cut of 7 decibels and a key of 0.30. The Q values on Tone Studio are a bit different, so this is just a way to show you how it works. This is what it's called a wider Q, because the curve, as you can see, is very wide, right? If I grab here and do this, it's going to be a narrow EQ. And this is both it's the same thing for cutting or boosting. Let me boost 7 decibels here, the other way around, and now I can narrow my cut, my EQ, or make it wider. Okay, so this low mid Q is doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing here, only you won't be able to see it. So let's put this back to 0 right now, and let's see what it does. So I'm going to increase here low mid gain around 7. Okay. The only thing you can see here is that on the left, the curve, let me explain again here, is going to be like this, wide, if you put it to the left, okay? Let me disengage this. If you put it to the right, the curve is going to do this. To the left is going to do this, to the right is going to do, let me gauge this, it's going to do this. It's going to narrow your frequency, okay? Hope you understand, it's very easy to understand. So there's some points in between, and these points in between that you can hardly fix them, and the value that it gives you is very different from the EQ I'm going to show you before, the digital EQ, okay? But you can hear the sound much more narrower now and much more wider. So if I want to go precise and I want to go precise and cut a very precise frequency, like let's say the same one, I'll go like this, because I want to do this. I want to cut that frequency at -7, and I don't know the curve how it is. It just says 16, but I'm assuming it's something like this, not too small. Okay, hope you understand so far. All right, and if you roll the low mid Q to the left, it will start doing this until it's wide open completely. In this case, the value is 0.5. In this case, it's 0.25. Maybe similar, I don't know. So the same thing happens if you want to boost, okay? So I'm going to do a narrow EQ here, disengage this, and I'm going to cut. I just cut it at a narrow EQ. So what I did was this. I cut the same frequency at a narrow EQ, okay? Now I'm going to boost the same frequency at a narrow EQ. It's the same thing of doing this. And typically on mixing and stuff like that, normally we don't do, we use like wider range, wider curve types for boosting, and normally tighter ones or narrow ones for cutting, because cutting is like shaping your sound, and boosting is a different thing, okay? Boosting, you don't want to boost like this. It's going to give you a weird sound, like this. Although this is not as precise as that EQ, so if I narrow completely and boost it at the same frequency that is around, let's say, to sound, right? Let me just choose a frequency around here. Yeah, you get the same kind of fizziness, which is horrible. So by now, I've chosen a frequency that is not very good, and I completely narrowed the EQ. I'm going to take it out. So you get a more solid sound. Not solid, more sculpted sound, I would say, okay? So you can fine-tune by just grabbing the strings and increase the EQ by 15, which is a huge value. and then stay on narrow and go find the frequency you don't like. There's a bunch of them. This might be one of those. So you find a lot of harshness and fizziness. Now you go back to the gain knob and take that out, and it's much better. You can take everything out. I don't do this. Use normally this kind of boost, so dramatic. Okay, and I normally use the left side, which is a wider range, because I like to boost frequencies here. On this parametric EQ, like on the guitar, it sounds good for the body, at least for me, around 200 for solo type tones, okay? Okay, and the same thing with the iMid Q. It's the same thing. These two knobs belong to this one, and these two knobs, belong to this one. These two knobs belong to this one, okay? The high is the same thing as the low. You don't have no control over the frequency or the Q, just more or low highs, okay? Sometimes I like to increase the highs here. Okay, now on the high mid frequency, one frequency that I like to boost is around, let's see, 1K. So it's in 1K. As I told you before, as I'm boosting, I don't want a narrow EQ, or it will sound weird, okay? I prefer a much wider EQ. Well, I won't boost so much, but like this. And I can increase here my gain. Now it has too much highs, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab another EQ. In this case, I'm going to choose a graphic EQ. This kind of EQ is different from the parametric one because it gives you the values, indeed, but you have no control over the curve and the Q. I mean, the Q, you have no control. You just have like 500 cut boost. I mean, boost or cut. No control over the shape of the Q, like here. Okay, if it's narrower or wider, you have no control, so you don't know exactly what you're doing. You have to do this by here. Now, I told you it was a little bit fizziness, so it was around 1K. I'm gonna start taking out here. 4K also. Sometimes sounds bad, I don't know why. And now on the EQ again, on the second page, it's already rolled off around, but I can roll it a little bit more. Okay. So this starts to be the foundation for a heavy tone. I hope you guys understand so far. Low cut is the same thing. You can no bass, or flat. Normally guitars until here. There's not nothing happening, so you can cut it. Being in position amp in. Or amp out does change the sound. I might tell you that I don't know right now. I'll explain you what this really does, but it does change the sound. It seems like a more rounded sound with amp out, and more scooped with amp in. So this might be worth checking out because I have this power chord. If I put it like this, oh sorry, let me see how it sounds. Probably is where you position EQ, on the amp in or in the amp out, like if you use a normal EQ. So I'm gonna leave it like this, amp in. The chain, I'm using the chain number 2, is the chain that I use the most. And now I'm gonna have a booster, probably a tube screamer, because it sounds good with heavy metal stuff. Tube screamer, here it is. It's off. Let me tune my guitar to D. Okay, good foundation already. Let me roll down some mids. You don't want to roll down all the mids because the guitar is a mid-range instrument, okay? in the mix, it will disappear totally. So let's say like here. Now I'm going to engage my tube screamer, and 0 is more than enough. Tone, let it say like this. I like the way it is. Let me check it out. Now, if I was going to record this and mix it, there are some things I cannot do. This is not the perfect situation. I'm going to roll down a little bit of the highs. Let me see how it sounds now. You might hear always some fizziness, which is perfectly normal because might be not of the amp what you hear from the speaker, but actually are you listening through your monitor or headphones like I am now, because I have my Katana right now plugged from the rack out into my Focusrite 2i2 in one of the preamps, okay? So the sound will be totally different from what you hear from the Katana. Have that in mind because that's very important. So if I was going to record this, and I might give you an example, let's say I'm happy with this tone, cut up the reverb, I don't want any reverb. My phone, let me just disengage this. I'm not going to have too much gain because if you're going to double track this, you don't want too much gain on the guitars. This is another tip, okay? Recording heavy guitars. Alright, so let's go into Logic and click on Record. Okay. I don't know if the metronome is on or not. Let me see. Something like this. Okay. Okay, this is enough. Now what I'm going to do is select another track and play exactly the same thing. For this to sound the best, you might want to change the pickup or the guitar, okay? Or even the settings, okay? So I'm going to change here some stuff for the purpose of the video. I'm going to put this on the ground channel, which will give me a slightly different tone, okay? And now I'm going to record the same riff. Let me listen to it again, if I remember. Okay, something like this. So I'm going to record 4, 1, 2. Okay, it's recorded. This is a great tip for you guys that are starting to mix and doing your own stuff. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to delete here some parts just for the noise. I don't know. Maybe I'll start here. It's going to be very, very... All right, as you see, if I leave guitars as they are, they're coming both in the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan one guitar to the left totally and the other to the right. You can do this in the mix window, okay? Now let's see how it sounds. Now this would be the stage where recorded I would further shape the mix. And let me just show you one thing before we end the video. I'm going to grab this EQ from Logic and see the curve and look for frequencies that I don't like, that fizziness, okay? So I'm going to increase at a certain point and put it really narrow, listen, and I'm going to search around for the weird stuff. Take a listen. As you see, 24 decibels of that. I'm gonna reduce around 10. There's also an area here that it's too heavy, mid-heavy, so also you can now high pass because there's too much lows going on. Why this? Okay, around 60 or 70. Although I took them in Tone Studio, 2 guitars. So as you guys can see, I'm scoping my sound until I'm happy. So this way of one way of do it. You can use other type of EQs like more traditional ones like this one that sounds great on the guitar and further shape your sound. This is a topic for another video, of course. But I hope you understand the EQ part, the global EQ, the parametric EQ, how the EQ values work, and all that stuff. And we come up with a great sound. And this is how you can further shape your sound and make it fit on the mix. Because you have, like in this EQ, once again, I took a lot of lows because you have to make room for the bass and the kick drum and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this BTS tutorial number 2, and stay tuned for more. Cheers. Thank you guys.